Welcome, everybody. It's the Midlife Gaming Podcast, episode 14, Steve. Number 14. It's crazy.
14.
Number 14. This is this guy, Archie, and as always, Pharaoh Steve is here with me. Today, we're going to go over a little bit of the possible, and I use that term very lightly, possible Battlefield 6 leaks. Some images came out. We'll go over those. We're going to talk about Microsoft's planned, I don't think it's gone into effect yet, but planned change on how they take their split from their developers. And then we got a nice little gift today from Marvel in the form of a 3-minute little video that had a ton of information in it. So we're going to go over that as well. Before we do, though, how was your week, Steve?
It was good, brother. Can't complain. Happy to be alive.
Good. Yes. Good. All right. Well, then let's go ahead and get into the news. First up, possible Battlefield 6 leaks. We have two images that came out from I guess he's a well-known leaker in the Battlefield world, Tom Henderson. Kind of confirmed them on Twitter. And I don't know what you've seen these images. Well, I'll pull them up for us here on the stream. You've seen these images before. What do you feel about them?
I think they're legitimate because I think this is part of an intentional leak. Like a lot of game companies do this. I think it's an intentional leak. Someone on Reddit had kind of done some analysis, and they have said that it was similar to concept art that it leaked previously. A lot of times what happens is someone on the team, they have an art portfolio up on some website, and at some point someone finds it in, oh, gee willikers, there's concept art in there for an unreleased title. And it's like, none of those people do that. I don't think there's anyone oblivious enough to do that on their own. Like, if you work for a big company like this, you know that you're not allowed to share that stuff. So that's why whenever they start from something like that, I always assume it's an intentional leak. And it makes a little bit of sense, like, hey, get people excited before E3, that's coming right around the corner. Let's start sprinkling stuff out. Like, ooh, I wonder, IGN in there, what do you want to see from E3? Like, they'll keep talking about Battlefield just because of the leak. So it serves a purpose. In terms of like what the images show, like, this is what I want. I want, Battlefield to return back to kind of its roots of large scale, hectic, chaotic warfare. That's all I want, where, Call of Duty has that down when it comes to the on foot stuff, but they don't have the vehicles. And I think that's really what makes Battlefield really have that unique DNA, is the combination of the on foot stuff and the vehicles, So I'm hoping this is a very successful title. I really do want an FPS title.
Yes.
I find myself going back to Titanfall 2 most of the time, just because it has that large scale warfare, and you get the tank or the Titans, which are big vehicles. So it scratches that itch for me a little bit, but I would love to just see Battlefield really come back and be a strong competitor against Call of Duty. I think there's a world where all these games can exist,
Yeah, I agree. And we kind of talked about that last time too, about how while in general terms, they're very similar titles, this and Call of Duty and whatever the other one was. I don't remember what it was we were comparing it to last time.
Apex.
Definitely not comparing it to Apex. That's a different world. But still, I mean, they all have their different niches that they fulfill and serve a good purpose on. You don't have to be a team of one or a team of the other. You can like both. So back to the images though. I don't know. I didn't take into consideration before this that it could have been one of those intentional, leaks where they're like, oh, how did that get out? Oops. But as I was looking at these images earlier today, the more it seemed like they weren't legitimate. So the same dude, Thomas, whatever his name is on Twitter, that confirmed him, he drew these exact scenes earlier. I think it was like weeks earlier, maybe months earlier at this point. The exact same scenes. There are some scenes that people have like laid over his drawing versus this image as well as the other one, and it's like a 1-for-1. He had to have been tracing it off of like a monitor or something. Or like you said, it's a clever guy's. Exactly. He had gameplay,
off of gameplay,
and he was tracing off of that. Absolutely. And that was the aspect I didn't take into consideration. My problem though is that we have spent several hours in Battlefield games. There is so much more content in Battlefield 4 and Battlefield Hardline that we played last time. I think that was the last one we played. So much more density to the world, but there's no density here. There's like, you have two buildings over here. There looks like a shuttle way down further on the map. It definitely looks like a big map. So, they get that. It's a big map. But
I think maybe it's because it's only one part of a maybe this is just like one half of the island or something like that. Because if you look further down there, you can see there's explosions. I
right,
can't talk. Explosions and things happening like way at the end down there.
right.
I don't know. Like there's definitely a chance these could be fake. The only reason why I take credibility with it is so what you'll notice a lot of times is once other big sites pick it up, then it's like, okay, this isn't just a random person throwing it out there. Because
Right.
a lot of these guys that work at IGN and all that, they'll ask one of their buddies just kind of like off the cuff,
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, is this real or not? And they'll be like, yeah, off the record, it's real. Which, okay,
Right.
now they've got, hey, we've had anonymous sources confirm it. This came up recently with like they were talking about Marvel and the whole Spider-Man thing, and they're it was actually Fat Man on Batman, Kevin Smith's
Right.
podcast I was listening to. And he's like, yeah, you can tell that this one is real because, or actually, it was the opposite. You can tell this one's fake because no one else has picked it up except for this one blog site. So just the fact that major outlets have picked it up
A
make it
little
seem a
bit
little
more
bit more
credible.
credible. Yeah, I mean, either way though, I'm here for Battlefield 6 as long as this is even a sliver of the tone of what they want the game to be, then I'm fine with that. Just because that's all I really want. Like, I don't really need any big new features or anything like that. Just bring it to modern or near future, and that's it. You know, hopefully not fill up a ton of microtransactions. But like this looks good. Like this reminds me a lot of the HUD from 4 2 as well.
See,
Like
this one screams fake to me louder than the other one, because if you look in the background, there's nothing. There's like, this is a piece of debris at the bottom right on the right hand side above the numbers. That's just a piece of debris that's over there, and it's all just flat out there. Like someone built this in Blender or something. And the only real texture of content is the space shuttle with the framework around it. It looks like
because
someone it looks like
it's a
someone turned
missile
on
silo.
Battlefield 4 and then just cranked the settings down to 0. Like we need to run this in toaster mode. And also another thing that they are very well renowned for is their getting semi-accurate interfaces for their vehicles on the inside. This looks like no helicopter I've ever seen, Steve. This interface down here where it looks like you have 18 different rocket tube types, I don't know what this is. You're the helicopter man, not me, but something doesn't look right there. But I could get it.
Who knows?
I could get it.
Who knows?
I am a little bit worried about the blue because I kind of thought this out. It seems like Battlefield does have this color scheme that they like to do. It's kind of like a rustic orange when it's in the past, or it's green when it's in the present. But whenever they use blue, it's normally in the future to some degree. So I don't know how much I'm feeling a sci-fi Battlefield. But like you said, I'm dying for one. I enjoyed the last ones, except take that back. I didn't really care much for the last one. The historical ones. I'm not about the historical shooters anymore. But I am more about the kind of modern / slightly forward in time ones. Nothing outrageously forward in time, but yeah, I'm going to absolutely be picking up Battlefield 6. Like there's no doubt in my mind, and I don't even know really much about it. So I just know what they've done in the past. If they're coming back to present time, I'm all about it.
Likewise.
Yep. We got some people in the chat. Dr. Pretender, Tom the Greek, and Squid Twitch. Thanks for showing up. Appreciate you guys.
Woo-woo.
Yeah, Squid Twitch, it's definitely a hella fake copter. I believe it. This is all types of craziness is happening in this image right here. All right, I'm done talking about fake photos. We'll get the real ones soon. E3's around the corner. Summer Games is also around the corner. Lots of stuff is right around the corner. So we will get the truth here one way or another. Let's see. So what do we got next, Steve? I think Microsoft. Yeah. That's the one we're talking about right now. Microsoft looked into reducing its Xbox store cut from 30% to 12%. Right now, most of us watching this know that Apple and Epic are in kind of fisticuffs right now because of all the different Fortnite cuts that Fortnite was getting. What was the main thing? They got pulled from the store because they allowed you to buy V-Bucks from the online store, so they were bypassing the Apple store, right? That was the big deal.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then Epic came back and said, listen, their cut is way too much for something that they don't do anything. Well, Xbox is kind of starting to set that precedent because they, at least according to this article, to my knowledge before this time, these numbers were very hush-hush. Like, you know, it was very dependent on what the developers were doing with Xbox, what type of partnership they had worked out, and things like that. But the way that this article makes it seem, is that it was a flat 70-30 cut where Microsoft would just take 30% of the sales, no matter, you know, just flat across the board. And then everything else goes back to the developer. Now they're changing that. They found documents as part of this Epic Games versus Apple case. Documents were found, and believe it says The Verge found them first through some of the court filings, that Microsoft did announce that they were adjusting their Xbox, or not Xbox, what do they call it? Microsoft Store on Windows 10, as well as the Microsoft Store on Xbox. So where you buy your games and everything, where your Games Pass content is found and all that stuff. But they have made an official statement to The Verge that this does not apply or will not apply to consoles. So do you think this is a direct attack against, not attack, but a direct attempt at competing with Steam and Epic on the PC environment?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think like Microsoft, I don't think they really care about the Microsoft store as much anymore. Like even right now, it's pretty inconvenient to use the store. Like
Yep.
using the Xbox app on PC is a lot easier, to be honest, for getting the games and knowing something's been updated and all that. But it's definitely like Microsoft's always been more indie friendly than even Sony has been. So this
Mm-hmm.
is another move. Like, hey, let's like obviously some of this is rebuttal to what's happening with Steam and Epic, but yeah, definitely like let's lower our fee, let's be more in line with what the other marketplaces are doing. Especially you can be Microsoft and play hardball and stay at 30 while everyone else is lowering, but you really can't when you don't have the advantage. Like when you're the underdog punching up, you always need to either be on par with or have something uniquely different than than the competitors. And that's why I say I don't think they're directly competing with Steam because they have Game Pass. Game Pass itself is coming to Steam at some point, so they look at
Right.
themselves as a partner with them. But they also see that as like, hey, here's a direct avenue to get into our ecosystem and keep a little bit more of the profits ourselves. So, but yeah, I mean, hey, I'm down with this. I think I've said it probably every time we talk about Xbox or Microsoft on this on this show. I think they're the most consumer friendly platform that there is.
Yep.
So
I would agree. It's they've definitely made a change from what was the big guy's name that whenever they announced the Xbox One, they were like, "Oh, the gamers are too stupid to understand the 24-hour connection." So I can't remember
uh,
what it was,
I don't remember the guy's
but
name either.
everyone was
He
up in
was
a roar about how your Xbox had to be connected to the internet for
yeah,
check-ins.
and
It was a
now
good
every game
system,
does it
and
anyway.
every game does
But
it anyways because you can't play it without that day one patch. So
yeah, and honestly, it sucks that we didn't get what they had because what they had wasn't bad. Like with the friend share and all that
yeah,
kind of stuff, like it wasn't really that bad. Like it's what Steam does. Honestly, like you need to be connected because we need to make sure that you and the other person aren't online at the same time, just
right.
using a free game. So
You're not just
but
giving
whatever.
your Netflix password out to 80 people.
Yeah, that's another argument for another time.
So Microsoft sent a follow-up statement to The Verge stating that, quote, "We will not be updating the revenue split for console publishers," end quote. So they inadvertently did admit that they are keeping it or they're making the change for their PC store. And I do know that the Xbox app is more on PC is more like a front end than it is an actual application itself. It's kind of like separates the games out of the Microsoft Store for Windows 10, but it's still all the Microsoft Store. If you go into your Microsoft Store on Windows 10, any games or DLC that you bought from the Xbox app, it will be there. It will show up in there as owned or whatever the official title is for whenever you have a Game Pass title downloaded. It'll all show up in there. Not much else to say about that one though. I think it's a nice thing for them to do. They, like you said, they don't have to do it. It's not like anyone is hurting at Team Microsoft. So I don't know. I feel like they probably get this. I don't know how the financial cut happens for their in-house studios. Do you think that still follows the same process, and then they just kind of like, do the accounting on the back end, or do they
I
just
don't
take
think
all
so.
of it and they just use that extra 88% now goes right back into the funding for that studio?
If it's a studio that they actually own, then
Right.
everybody who works for the studio is just getting paid their salary, and then they might have like some type of bonus structure based off like Metacritic or sales, but they wouldn't have to account per studio, at least not at that level with the people that work there. Now, for outside studios, they definitely would. They would enter into some type of agreement like, hey, here's XYZ, we're going to pay you this much upfront as an advance for you to develop, and then we're going to take X% of the profits in it. I think it'd probably be a lot more than 30% though at that point if you're acting as a like an actual producer, or if you're acting as a publisher and you're giving them, the investment that even have the project done, you probably get a lot more.
Right.
And a lot of time those developers, I mean, Microsoft doesn't have any IPs that I know of that they license out to anyone really. Like they usually just keep it in house. But if it was something like that, then the actual studio would have to pay them to like, hey, we want the license for Master Chief to make Master Chief Pinball or some shit like that. They'd have to pay them. But yeah, it's interesting, man. This is only good though. Like even in the playing ground,
Absolutely.
it's a good thing. So
Yeah, because hopefully this helps stave off that price hike in next generation titles. Like what was it, like an $11 bump in some of the PS5 titles compared to the PS4 ones?
mm, I know they are expensive.
Yeah, they definitely are. All right, let's move along. More interesting topic, to my opinion. So Marvel came out. Let me here we go. Marvel came out with a trailer for celebrating the movies, and it starts out as a nice little homage to everything that's happened so far in the MCU, and it's done with some words of the late Stan Lee talking about family, and we're all family, nice, warm and fuzzies. But then they hit us with the new stuff, and poor Black Widow, man, she is what, 14 14 months past due now at this point. I mean, she was supposed to come out the March that we all went under lock and key. And she's still got a release date now of, what is this? July 9th now. So we're getting 4 movies this year. By the end of this year, which is already almost halfway done, we're supposed to be getting 4 Marvel films. All same universe. Well, Spider-Man, technically is. There's a little bit of news behind the whole Sony and Marvel partnership that seems to be good as well, but I don't know too much about it, so I'm not gonna talk on it because I don't know. How do you feel about this movie though? By the way, I meant to ask you whenever this trailer first came out, Shang Chi. How do you feel about this one?
Meh. Like, I feel the same way about this that I feel about like the entire oncoming onslaught of movies. Like, none of them really have me so stoked. Honestly, like I'm interested enough to see. Like, I think Spider Man is probably the one that I'm most excited to see, just because I want to like for the nostalgia factor. If they really are bringing back all those guys from the prior, franchises
Right.
or the prior iterations, I want to see that. But anything else like Eternals, I have a curiosity to see just kind of how that translates. But they all look good. Yeah, I agree with you, Tom. The Greek, like, it looks good, but I'm not like, oh my god, see this because we don't know what the big bad is yet for this phase. Like, and we're going to talk about that, kind of at the end, which I think does
Probably.
allude to who the big bad is. But yeah, none of these, like this one, it looks cool. Like, I like that this one does the same thing that Winter Soldier did for me, in my opinion, which was
Hmm.
kind of taking Marvel and giving it a brand new, what do you call it, like genre, theme, tone, whatever. Like,
Right.
it looks beautifully shot. Like, when he's fighting those guys on the subway, like, it doesn't look like they're using wires or anything. It looks like he's actually doing it. So I'm excited about seeing where the universe is going, but it's just so hard, man. It's like the changing of the Power Rangers, like when they, they change over into the new, the like, yeah,
I
the Mighty
do.
Morphin Power Rangers.
That's the perfect analogy. The changing of the Power Rangers.
Yeah, it's like these are the guys who are picking, they're going to pick the MCU up now on their shoulders and they're going to go off into this new phase. And we've got
Right.
some old, favorites in there with the Guardians and Black Panther, XYZ. But yeah, I mean, are you ever going to beat Robert Downey Jr.? Like, is this guy going to be as charming as RDJ? No.
Well, maybe
No.
not this guy, but I think that I
One
think
one thing though, let me
yeah, go
stop.
for it. Go
Yeah,
for it.
one
Go
quick
for it.
thing to say. What I will say is so Robert Downey Jr. for us, here in America, overseas, all that. This guy's going to be huge for the Asian. So I'm glad that those folks have somebody who they can look up to, and
Oh
that they
yeah.
have someone who represents them. Like, that's absolutely huge. I'm sure they're like fucking stoked about this. But for me, it's just it's okay, cool. I'll see what happens.
See,
Prove me wrong.
I have good hopes for this movie because if they even remotely get close to the level of action that Daredevil on Netflix had, I'm all about it. I love those long uncut scenes from Daredevil where the combat just doesn't stop. It just keeps going and going. Go ahead, get it out. I know what you're doing. Oh god. But so back
You'll never see me coming.
coming. Oh god.
So
But
good.
for some that may not know, the Legend of the Ten Rings, uh, these guys have been hinted at ever since the first Iron Man. I think was the first MCU, comeuppance, because they were the group
Yes.
that claimed that they had kidnapped Tony Stark out in the desert. They were the group responsible for that. So it'll be, and I think the Mandarin claimed he was part of the Ten Rings as well. Thomas,
Yes.
get that out of here,
So yeah,
Thomas.
they
But
were
yeah,
actually, the thing was though, they were fake though. They were not the real
right.
Mandarin, and so all those guys were pretending to be of that affiliation to frame, not the frame, but to, like, I don't know what the fucking, like, the logic of it actually doesn't make sense. I'm sure they explained it, but that's what the whole conflict was there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because it was AIM. AIM was the real bad group in Iron Man 3, and they were kind of framing the Ten Rings organization by using a fake Mandarin. So,
Exactly.
because I think that was that a post credit scene or was that a deleted scene where a dude shows up and gets the actor that's playing Mandarin?
It's a short.
It's
I
a
can't remember
short.
if it was
Okay.
like, if it was a YouTube thing or if it was like a special DVD thing, but it's not included in the movie. It was some type of short.
Oh, okay. And
Yes, Tom, we know you're quoting the Mandarin. I didn't think they were just, that was just you.
yeah, make it clear for the NSA agents watching right now. All right.
Oh man,
So the
love that guy.
next one that they announced up here was the Eternals, and I'm kind of hopeful for the Eternals to kind of
Woo!
set up a lot of the upcoming stuff.
I'll tell you one thing. It's got the babies in it.
But
Woo!
the I don't think we're going to get much out of the Eternals for Phase 4. I think they're going to be
Oh,
pretty much a standalone adventure with possibly a couple of tie-ins here and there. But I think for the most part, they're the long con. I think we're not going to see what's really going on with how they affect the world uh
See,
for a while.
I I think that they are going to be huge
I
for Phase
agree.
4.
Oh, not for Phase 4.
I think that they are probably like where the first string, like they'll probably be it in the other movies too, but they'll
Mhm.
probably have like the biggest string for the whole Fantastic Four thing because Galactic,
Right.
Galactus having history with that whole affiliation and everything. Um, but I'm with you. I don't know if these guys stick around though. Like I can't see these being in one shot just because of the fucking star power they have. Like
Absolutely.
I don't see Angelina Jolie being like, "Yeah, I'll stick around for 10 movies," or maybe she will be. She has kids, so maybe she's like, "For my kids, I want them to
Yeah.
see me as a cool superhero." So
Yeah, cuz
that
she's well known for bringing her children into, acting roles for her. Like her daughter was the one that was the little kid, the little baby in Maleficent. So
yeah.
it could very well be like a long con for her as well.
Yeah, so I just don't know. They that one has the most star power though, and it's hard for me to see like all what fucking 15, 20 of those people be like, yeah, we'll be around for 10 years. Call us up whenever you need us. So who knows? I mean, but I think it could. I think you're right though. Like maybe it's like a one shot and they tell a story or something
Right.
of hey, here's setting up everything, and then
I think
ooh,
sporadically
30
they come
years
back.
later. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we'll see though. That's the one I'm the most excited about though. That was Spider Man.
Because we got a hint at the Eternals in Guardians 1, right? Whenever they were talking about the Power Stone being used and all that. Uh, they hinted at the
Thought it was
Eternals. Or no, those were the Celestials, right?
Yeah. Maybe
Whatever.
Guardians 2 though when they're talking about talking about EO and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yes. So I think that
What's
this is going to
next?
be a good film, but if it plays a significant role in Phase 4, it's not going to be until nearing the end, and then we're going to go back and go, "That's what that meant." One of
Yeah.
those setups. So next up on the
Angelina.
list is Spider-Man. Yeah, so we have Angelina Jolie. I forget what that guy's name is. I watched him in Silicon Valley on HBO.
Everyone
And
thinks he's hilarious. I don't.
no,
Mm.
I think he plays a very typecasted role that he seems to
I
enjoy. And
rather
if
it be
he enjoys
Aziz.
it, oh yeah, I mean,
Aziz.
hands down, Aziz is absolutely better.
Like he would be so out of place, but oh my god. Tom, I think it's Galactus, but we were talking about this in text, so I'll bring it up now. So actually I won't bring it up. Let me save that for the end because it ties
Save it
into
for
the
then.
end.
Yep. So we got
Yeah.
Spider-Man No Way From Home or No Way
No
Home.
way from
No
home.
Way From Home. No Way Home. This is going to be by the end of this year. We've gotten a couple of leaks here and there about who's going to be a part of it. If this movie is remotely half of as good as the leaks have been, I will be extremely pleased
Yeah.
because for them to, because I think, hold on, so after Spider-Man, yeah, we get Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness the following March. So if they're setting this up for all that shenanigans, and I know that there's people in Marvel and Disney, and Kevin Feige is probably scratching his head to see how he can turn this extremely nerdy concept of the multiverse into something that is more mainstream friendly, because it's just by what it is, the nature of what it is extremely nerdy, and you're going to turn off some of your audience that has been like, oh yeah, bright lights, we like it.
See, I think they don't have that much work to do there. I feel like they did it all. I feel like in game, obviously, you had the two Nakamoras, but you had the what the
Mm-hmm.
hell's the other what's the other sister's name? Not Nova. I can't remember her name right now. I'm so
I know
sorry.
who you're
She's
talking about
great though.
though.
Yeah, but so you had the two of those from the alternate, kind
Nebula.
of the multiverses. Nebula, yes, from the past and the future, and then also Spider-Man has already done the multiverse thing with their first that animated movie
Mm-hmm.
that I also can't remember the name of right now. So
Into
I
the
don't feel like
Spider-Verse.
the Into the Spider-Verse. I don't think it's that complicated, and I think that enough of the audience at this point is smart enough. Like I think there's probably still the grandmas and the kids. There's still a big casual audience, but I think a lot of the Marvel fans right now have gotten so
Is
smart. Like
Batman in this one, Timmy?
definitely, definitely get that. But I think a lot of the fans know, like, oh, okay, they've announced this movie. Let me look on Google and learn everything I can about those characters and
Right.
X, Y, Z before I move up. Like, especially where we work out. I tell you sometimes like I'll overhear people talking, and sometimes they're far off, and you want to throw them a little bone and be like,
Yeah.
hey, it's actually this. But a lot of times they know their shit. So I especially with the Spider-Man, if it is like the No Way Home thing, I feel like it's kind of a clue to what happens. Like maybe he's getting trapped in one of those alternate, multiverse dimensions with the Amazing Spider-Man, Garfield, or the original one with Toby. That's the
Yep.
thing that doesn't make sense yet how that all happens. But I think that the ultimate goal here is I think they're Sony, obviously they want to milk Spider-Man for as much as possible. I think that they're doing this because it quickly lets them set up the Sinister Six. Like if
Right.
the movie following this is Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So obviously the multiverse is still alive and well after this movie. So I think there's something to where like maybe like in the comics it's like yeah you've got Earth 56 Spider-Man and you've got Earth 22 Spider-Man both living on the same universe whatever the fuck. I think it's gonna be cool, man. I don't see how you could go wrong. They haven't made a bad movie yet.
Here's the thing too is unless they break their pattern, this will be even further into the future than where the current mainstay movies will be, because Far Away from Home, or Far From Home, whatever it was called, the second one was already in the future by several years by the time it had come out. So we're probably going to get some catching up. There's a lot of weird timeline things happening so far. Black Widow obviously is in the past because of reasons that happened in the last two big movies. Eternals, I think that's supposed to be an in the past type of movie. It might be like a hidden behind the scenes present day type thing. Shang Chi, who knows? It looks pretty modern. It looks like it might be post snap because everything seems to be back in place
Yeah,
slightly.
I'm pretty sure everything at this point is post snap with the exception of Black Widow and maybe a little bit of Eternals because you have to do that.
Right.
I want to say mythological, but you have to do that deep
Right.
history of where the hell they came from. So,
What do you think the chances are that we get Miles Morales in this one?
I don't think this one. I think that that's something to where when they're ready to hand off the mantle, they'll do that because they can continue to do the Into the Spider Verse movies
Right.
with Miles Morales, which I think honestly fits a little better, because you could do a lot more with the character. It fits, kind of the theme of him, with the you can't really make that into a live action movie yet. I think fans like that. You could tell some deep stories with cartoons, like that had one of the deepest stories out of all the Marvel.
Yeah.
I say Marvel, but it's a Sony picture. But anyway, like I think you leave Miles Morales over there until this guy is ready to step down. Like there's so you got like another man, like Spider-Man has so many great stories. Like when you think back to the comics and you think back to even the animated show, like there's
Yep.
so many storylines you could still do with this. Right now he's still a kid. Like adult Spider-Man has some really deep shit that they could really, when they
Yes.
get into, they could really, kind of push the boundaries with. So this is really Spider-Man's always been the most marketable Marvel character as well. So I mean, they could really build the entire like how the rest of the MCU is built up on RDJ's back. They could really
Yep.
build this all up on Spider-Man's back. The only kind of not there is that Marvel doesn't outright own Spider-Man. They have to share those profits with Sony, so they do have that little kind of that creative control shit they have to worry about because Sony
Mhm.
can be off over there making terrible Spider-Man movies, which devalues Spider-Man for the Marvel stuff. So that's the tricky part about it. But I don't know. They're somebody's got to carry it. Someone's got to carry the mantle on the back. Someone's got to be the new RDJ. Like you can do the ensemble thing, but everybody wants someone who they can like look to as like this is the person leading, the MCU right now.
Yeah, and I don't know if we're gonna get really like a big Avengers lead for quite some time. I mean, we have updated films coming down the line for the Avengers that we already know and care about. But we don't really have. I think now's a good time for them to start doing their little side split groups. I mean, you have the Amazing Friends of Spider-Man. Let let that be a thing by itself. You know, we have hopefully the Fantastic Four here shortly, and with any luck at all, we will get some X-Men properly done in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh man, you're one of those people.
Yes. I don't think it's happening
X-Men
in Phase
was
4.
done great.
No, it was not.
X-Men was done perfectly.
The
I have
last
no
two
complaints.
films were trash. I won't say trash.
Logan alone
that's
is
overly
better than anything that Marvel has ever done.
See, I don't consider Logan really an X-Men film.
That's an X-Men movie. First Class is great. They have more good movies.
First Class is great. First Class is great. I enjoyed First Class.
Apocalypse
I did not like.
Was even good.
It was not. You better take that back right now.
Great.
Apocalypse was not good at all.
Is it because Ivan Ooze? Is that why you didn't like?
Is that who that is?
No, but that's
who
it always reminds me of. When
I was about to say, he looked familiar, and I couldn't figure out why.
I like all of them. Like, even 3 wasn't bad. 3 just needed like a Snyder cut treatment. Like, they needed that guy to have more time to flesh it out because stuff just happened way too quickly.
It was a different world, different time.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's just like the first Spider-Man. Like, that is such a uniquely different take than what Marvel's done, but I love those movies just the same. Same thing with Batman. Like, Batman and Batman Returns, probably my favorite Batmans of all time, but you go back and watch those now, you're like, what the fuck do they have Batman doing? Like, he's throwing bombs on people. Clowns are getting blown up.
The Batman credit card.
Babies get thrown. I mean, oh my God. There's a man eating raw fish, sexually harassing Catwoman.
Half the movie was on ice.
Oh my God. But I love those movies because I feel like honestly, Michael Keaton, and that's why I want them to bring Toby back, because those original guys, like, yeah, like, people have done it better since then, but they have such unique takes on it that no one else has done. I feel like no one else has been Tobey Maguire since that. Like, Andrew Garfield was the cool cat, you know, he was too cool for school, and this kid, you know, I think Tom plays the he plays the Kitty Spider-Man or Peter Parker very well. Like, I think he handles that part very good, but I don't know, I don't really he's not my Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Toby.
not my Spider-Man.
Still real to me, damn it.
Oh yeah, and Deadpool, we still do have a Deadpool running around out there somewhere. Maybe
I feel like I'm the only person on the planet who doesn't really give a shit about Deadpool. Like,
in the theme of keeping the cinematic universe, you know, together, I don't really care much for Deadpool, but as individual films, I think they're pretty solid. They're pretty good watches. I won't say they're great cinema.
Good.
Second one was definitely meh, but first one was really good.
Sit through it. Yeah, I like the first one a lot. I just don't like, people are so obsessed. Like, we have to have him. Like, no, we really don't. Like, we don't. He could go off. I like Sonic more than I like Deadpool. Bring Sonic into the MCU. Do that.
Can you imagine if Sega was just like, yeah, you know what? Y'all are doing great, Kevin Feige. Take them all. Just we need
Goku as well.
Jump comes in and is like, hey, here, have Goku and One Piece and maybe some Demon Hunter.
But I see them doing good though. Like, I don't think they're going to lose some momentum, just because I think it's very hard to replace like what Robert Downey Jr. and Captain America brought. Like, even when I'm watching, it took me literally into the very last episode of Captain Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yep.
Captain America and Winter Soldier now to really even accept Sam as Captain America. I was like, I don't see it. I'm like, no one else can ever be Captain America. And then you see the other guy suit, you're like, yeah, there's no one who could fit in that suit and be like authentic to Captain America. It took until the end of it, and it took like that awesome speech that Sam gave. I was like, okay, I see it now. Like, because then he really took on he had that spirit of Captain America, like being pure and like, you know, really caring for people and all that mushy shit. I feel like
that was intent. So I told you over text that I would have easily traded the first 2.5 episodes of WandaVision for more. I guess it's still Falcon and Winter Soldier. Would have easily have traded those two in for more of there, because I felt like they almost intentionally hampered The Falcon, because I mean, in prior movies, he's still been like the upstanding model citizen type of dude. Like there was nothing like at the end of Endgame when Captain America hands his shield over to him, and Bucky gives a little wink nod. At that moment, I was ready. I was like, dope, next Captain America, let's make it happen. And then, in the first two episodes, spoiler warning, he ends up giving the shield away. Like, what? I feel like they intentionally were putting in plot devices that would not have actually occurred if they had followed his normal character trajectory, which would have been like,
What?
Maybe I'm not good enough for the shield. I would understand if that's the road that they took, but they didn't. They were like, it just needs to be in a museum. I'm going to go do my own thing now.
Yeah, see, but so that means I think you missed a major like plot device there then. So it wasn't about the like just oh this needs to be in a museum. He was like, he was struggling with a lot of things. And I think there's a lot that happened there. Definitely I think that their plan originally following
Mm-hmm.
the end of Endgame was just, hey, he's gonna be we're setting this Easter egg up here. Like we know in the comics he becomes Captain America. So
Right.
let's set that up now for the fans. Like and probably they were just going to cheaply bring him back as Captain America in whatever the next movie was without doing this whole Disney Plus TV show deal with,
Right.
the way they did it. I think that a lot of this, like, I don't know when this was written, but some of it felt like it was in direct response. It was like these guys watched The Boys and then they watched, they went to write and were like, we want to do something like that. Like, we want this to really push boundaries in. The story that they came up with, man, that's like when I texted you guys, I was like, I was literally crying, because
Yeah.
like they really did hit on a chord there. I think it took too long for people to see what the chord was because at the beginning, you're right. Like, and maybe that's what happened. Like at the very beginning, they were probably just going to go with the generic. Oh yeah, we he just doesn't want to be Captain America for whatever reason. And then at the end, like they'll come through like, oh, I feel like I can be Cap now. But there is like a distinct point in the show. I don't know what episode it was, but whenever they introduced the other, not the original Captain America, but the other guy who
The
had
other
the
super soldier
General
guy. Yeah.
yeah, who had the serum. Like, so I think maybe you're on something there, like maybe between those first couple episodes it could be trimmed up or pushed in a little bit more. But I think by the time that they finished it, they definitely they told the right story. Like they definitely did. Like
Yeah.
maybe
The
the
end
first couple
result.
episodes were slow. But I don't know if I wanted more though. I feel like I never felt like it was overdue. Like
Mm-hmm.
they didn't do that one thing I hate with every fucking show where they put in a full episode of like flashback to something. Like they did it in spurts, like hey, here's what it
Right.
is. But even when the guy was telling his story, like when I was listening to Kevin Smith, he pointed, he's like, you notice they never actually do a flashback to what's happening. Like they just focus on this guy telling the story because they really want the emotional impact to
Right.
hit you. And then he was kind of showing the juxtaposition between that and the WandaVision flashback, which was her and, Pietro, when the bombs were coming down and
Mm-hmm.
she's, they're watching the TV show. And I was like, oh, yeah, that is kind of interesting. They both hit you very emotionally, but they're both done completely different.
Right.
But yeah, I don't even know how we got on that. I'm ready for Captain America. I don't know. The only thing they have here is the same problem that like the cartoons used to have is when you have so many heroes and then shit's going down. It's like, why isn't this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy?
Why isn't
You have to
everyone
always
showing up?
you always have to have an excuse for why those people aren't there. So now, like, there's a lot of shit you have to show an excuse for why they're not there. Why isn't Wanda at this thing? Where the fuck did Wanda go? Like, I'm sure we're gonna find that out in the Spider-Man movie
Well,
or
she's in the
in the
mountains somewhere.
yeah, but yeah, there's just a lot of stuff here. A lot
Yeah,
of stuff here.
it's gonna be a lot to unpack over the next couple of
Yeah.
years, because that after the last episode is whenever they confirmed that there is going to be another Captain America like standalone film starring him as Captain America. So I mean, it's not been announced for a date, so I can only imagine that that's probably somewhere way later in phase 4, probably around the time that they need him. Because I mean, Zemo's not gone. He's still out there running around. So that might be like, his own private mission is figuring out Zemo. And I feel here's my problem with Falcon and Winter Soldier, the show. They set John up, the fake Captain America, now known as US agent. They set him up to be such a guy that you felt like you had to like him because of his background, but you just didn't. You just didn't like him because he was
What?
a jerk. Well, no, because remember,
I
in the very beginning, they framed him as this war hero. You know, he's saved so many people. Just all that stuff. They were trying to set him up to be like good on paper, but he's bad in person type of thing. But they don't really implement that to too much of an extreme. Like, yeah, they strip his title and everything because he basically decapitated the dude in like the, what was it, episode 4 or 5. But then it's just like, okay, he's just a dude. Somehow he made it all the way to New York on his own 2 feet, and now he's here helping us protect the vote from the flag smashers for some reason. Like, he's kind of like shoehorned in the last episode, and then he just kind of leaves. Like, it's not we don't see that. Like, whenever they did the whole like demented head swirl camera shot around him after he killed that dude, I thought for sure that they were going to make him like this psychopath that we're gonna have to deal with for way down the line somewhere. But no, he's just like, oh, let me help you guys out, take down these guys right here, and then he just disappears, and now he's working with some under ops.
I'm with you. I never liked him either, so I disagree. I think so I'll say one thing. I think what they're setting up for 2 things. You have Thunderbolt Ross, who's out there,
Right.
who starts like kind of the Suicide Squad thing for the Marvel comics, which is the Thunderbolts.
Mm-hmm.
Or you also have Dark Avengers, so you could do either of those. I think Dark Avengers would probably be where they would go because
I think
it's just
so.
easier for the mainstream. But you've got Zemo, you've got fucking U.S. agent who's going to be out here doing his own thing. So you've got these anti-heroes. So I think there's something there for in the future. I think that's what those series are planning for. But I never liked the guy. Like, I think what they did with him was they made him obnoxiously
Right.
what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they made him obnoxiously successful. Like, he had all these credentials, blah blah. To like, it kind of reminds me of like in wrestling when Kurt Angle first came. Like, he's like, "Oh, yeah, he's medals," but from day one, he was always a heel because you didn't like him because he was so successful. He was always kind of talking about his accomplishments, and kind of the same thing with this guy. He shows up like, imagine you and your best friend are out, doing whatever, you're fighting these guys, and then, oh, hey, I just showed up. I have your other best friend's shield who died.
Right.
And oh, look, guys, I'm so great. I came here and I saved your butts. Like, no, we don't want to work with you. We want you out of our fucking face. Like, I think that's what they wanted the fans to go through. They wanted you to go through the same experience of being like, all right, yes, on paper, this guy should be the next Captain America, but you should not like him because you have this connection with Captain America and with Sam and Bucky,
Right.
and you know that none of them would have wanted him to be Captain America. So that's the way I took it from the beginning. But if people liked him, I would be why, like that would be
No,
my
I
first
agree.
question.
I did not like
why do
him.
you like?
I did not like him, but you could tell that they were framing him in such a way that they wanted you to hate the fact that you liked him. Like, that was kind of like the weird, that was the weird setup that I felt like they were trying to do to kind of lean in heavier into his like psychotic episode that he started having that never had a payoff. It's like, okay, we had a slightly semi-emotional stripping of rank situation happen, but then as soon as that's done, it's like, oh, here's this, undercover Black Ops lady, whatever her name is, Viv, shows up and is like, hey, you want to be on the other team that, we don't have to do paperwork. Ha ha ha. It kind of just all felt like the payoff was for nothing for him. But the show is not called, John the Fake Captain America show. So I guess that kind of dwindles that down too.
Actually, I think they handled him well. I really didn't have a problem with the way they handled him.
I wish they would have made him more psychotic.
We stopped dead here though, so let's go through the rest of the trailers and
we'll go. Well, there's not really too many trailers. There's just like
the
logos.
other announcements. We got Black Panther.
Yep. So we got Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. Talked about that. Thor: Love and Thunder has a date now where Jane comes back and somehow manages to wield Mjolnir, is what the announcement said.
Meow meow.
Meow meow. But I don't know how this is gonna work out unless this is part of the multiverse part where we're seeing a Thor that never got hammered playing Fortnite post snap. So I don't know. there's very little out about this movie, but I'm looking forward to it. I like the last Thor movie. So, and then next one up is Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I know that they have already made the public statement that they will not be using the original Black Panther's personage. They're not going to CG him in. They're not going to have an actor come in and then just CG a face over him. They're going to respect his passing and try and move forward in the narrative. But because it's not Black Panther 2, it is specifically titled Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Do you think we're going to get an actual successor to Black Panther in this movie? Or is that going to be something they hold off till the end?
Absolutely. I think it's going to be Shuri. Like, it just makes sense. Like, Shuri was
In the
already
comic
a
books,
fan
yeah.
favorite. Yeah, and people like her. So
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why it would not be her. The only other thing that they wouldn't do the disrespectful thing of having Bucket come over as White Wolf and have him kind of lead the pack. So I think
Yeah.
it's going to be Shuri. It just makes sense for it to be her.
And they kind of
Like,
like nipped that in the butt too in Falcon and Winter Soldier whenever he went up against the guards that came for Zemo. She intentionally made the statement of like, hey, you better stay away from Wakanda for a while. So
yeah.
I don't foresee him coming over and fulfilling the whole White Panther situation anytime soon.
Yeah, the safest thing to do, if I try to put myself in shoes, the safest thing to do would be recast Shuri. Like, you get the benefit of, oh look, we're diverse, we put a woman in that role. Two, you don't have to get the backlash of, oh, the other guy was better than,
Right.
better than Chat, or Chat was better than this guy that you've put in there now. There, I saw some people saying you could put Michael B. Jordan in there. Like,
I
he
was about to
didn't die
ask
when he went over.
I was about to
I
ask you that.
I would absolutely hate that. Like, that's something else that would be stupid. Like,
It
this is
ruins
one of
the
those
whole first
cases where
movie.
the obvious lazy thing of doing like actually makes the most sense. Like,
Right.
just making sure it makes sense. Like, that's probably what would happen. If you respect the lineage of, hey, he died. Who is next going to take his place? As the heir to the throne in the kingdom. It would probably be his sister. She's the smartest and probably maybe not the
She's
smartest, but she
she's
would
the
be so
next in
smart that
line.
she could. Yeah, like he doesn't have any children that we know of. So
True.
yeah, let's do it.
Yep, let's do it. Do you think she gets the suit like she suits up as Black Panther right off the bat, or and they don't have the
Um,
fruit anymore? So how do we handle that?
I think they open the movie up with like either they do like the funeral procession for what happened,
Right.
like they show some type of like grand respect to him and like this awesome type of spectacle. They're not gonna show I don't think they're gonna do a flashback of what happened. I think they're just gonna, very quickly speak about what happened, move on from there. She's already in the role of, whatever. Or maybe she's the one who's having, kind of that struggle you were talking about with Sam. Like, I don't think I could fill the shoes, and maybe
Right.
that's what the movie is about. Because I think they have to spend a movie kind of resetting everything that you
Yeah.
really knew about it. I don't think you could shotgun right into her being Black Panther. You could, but people are going to want that deeper, kind of like the deeper evolution of, hey, what happened in the period from when he passed away till her becoming,
So
taking that mantle.
there was an announcement on the backside of this that stated that there is going to be a Black Panther Disney Plus series as well. They did not give a
Mm,
date or time for it, so I don't know if it is before or after. I'd imagine it would have to be after because this is
yeah,
set for July 8th of next year. So that'd be a
yeah,
lot of recording you'd have to do.
which would make even more sense for it being her because at that point, like, no disrespect to her, but is she going to carry a movie on he did. Maybe if this is hugely successful, but even then, you kind of have a little bit of that novelty factor if people are going to just see how they handle it. So I
Right.
think they would. It's a safer bet. Do the movie, pay the respects, send them off nicely in that, and then do a TV show where she can do 10 episodes every other year or something,
Right.
just to keep it alive. And then she shows up in the Avengers movies. Kind of like how
Oh, so
Hulk
you think
shows up.
this would be like the last Black Panther movie?
I do. If it does move to her being, and unless there's some massive success to where, it's just a off the chain success and they really think she can hold a movie on her own, I think they would. Just because it's not they never
I mean, they
their
do have a
original
good
vision
cast.
was never I'm sorry, what?
They do have a good cast. I mean, they were kind of
Yeah.
like kind of
They,
standout actors at the time.
yeah,
Um,
they're all great actors, but when I think to and this yeah, I hope this doesn't come out sexist, but like I think that
no.
they patterned the future plans of Black Panther after him being in that role. Like, he was a
Hmm.
great actor, he could carry a whole. say that she
Absolutely.
can't. I just think that if their immediate thought is, "Hey, we got kind of put in a corner here. He passed away unfortunately really quickly. We have to do another movie because we already announced it and we have this time slot that we've already pre-allocated for that. We want to show the respects off for him well, so let's do this last movie." Like, it's called Wakanda Forever. That kind of does make me feel like, okay, yeah, this is probably the last one. Like, even
This
in the
might be a
title, I'm
send
like,
off. Yeah.
yeah, like, "Hey, Wakanda Forever." I'm like, "Okay, bye-bye." And then, you get for a TV show, it's just a lot less of a risk, and you get more time to deal with her. I feel like that would make a better TV show too, because you think of her wit and stuff like that, like, hey, now you've got, like, this kinda comedy on the it's not a comedy, but it's an action comedy, and you can still deal with, some of these topics if you want to and stuff like that. I just think it would lead better to that. I think, yeah, because 'cause I'm sure their plans got ruined. I'm sure at some point,
Yeah.
fucking Black Panther was gonna be Marion Storm. It ain't happening now. I can tell you that, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Uh,
unfortunately. All right. So
but hey, who
next
knows?
up,
They could always do a universe reset at some point. Like, "Hey,
oh, I hope
everything's
not.
anew. Here's a
I
new
hope
Iron
not.
Man. We're using all the characters from the Avengers game this time."
The next the new Avengers is just completely animated at that point.
Oh,
It's just all the
right.
90s version of the characters. All right, so
Well,
next
so
up is the Marvels. I don't know how to feel about this one because I don't know too much about. I think
let's
there's
fast
there's
forward past
there's
it.
two other Marvels. Yeah. So this is basically gonna be most likely a Captain Marvel. I know that this figure, this like S shape, is for Miss Marvel, but I don't
Exactly,
I don't
so
I don't know much about any of them. But you know what? November 11th, we'll have a trailer by then to dissect and figure it out.
yeah, the plan is it'll be Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, and then Miss Marvel has her TV show coming after this movie.
Yeah. And then Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantum Mania, the third one in that series is coming up in
I'm
February
excited.
17th. I like the Ant-Man movies. They're just, fun little movies for me, to me. So I hate that I have to wait until 2023 for the next one.
Yeah.
But by the
It's a
title,
good
Quantum
Valentine's Day movie.
Mania, it's probably going to be a direct tie-in with, the whole Fantastic Four thing that they hinted at the very end. Because after this, it's just Guardians 3. We knew that this was coming, and we knew that it was going to be super late in the game because of the whole firing of what's his face and then bringing him back. Uh, he did what? The director did. Why am I drawing a blank? The
James Gunn?
yeah, but what movie did he just do? Suicide Squad. I was like, you just said the word earlier. Suicide Squad, the reboot, I guess. He did that in his off time from Disney. So we knew that this was going to be a while until Guardians 3 came out. I like the Guardians series though. Drax is one of my favorite. If you stay incredibly still, can't see me. And then I think this is where the Fantastic Four tease comes into play. So clearly they're going to be the kind of like hidden element behind the curtains for a while. I don't think that we'll see a Fantastic Four movie per se. I think the Fantastic Four movie is going to be the Avengers style film, like the one that kind of caps it all off. And then Phase 5 will probably get, a standalone movie for the by the four of them, but I can't imagine that they would go back and do another origin story for these guys.
Mm.
What do you think?
Um, I think they could because it's never been done right. Like, it was done very campy,
Mm-hmm.
2000s flick, which wasn't even the original. It was done too gothic in the other one from Josh Trank. So I think that they have a way that they can bring it into the MCU, probably using some type of existing string that they put in one of these former movies. I think the fact that this is the logo that they put and it's the only one that doesn't have a date kind of tells us that it's probably going to be the end event to cap off, this phase.
Right.
It's just how is that going to happen? And I think it's kind of interesting still that we haven't heard anything about X-Men. So maybe they are saving X-Men for the next phase, which is a little disappointing. But just because I thought there were some good opportunities, like one of the things they line for us was like, hey, what if in the end of the Captain America and Winter Soldier show when Carly dies, they were like, how about instead of if instead of her dying, what if she had started to regenerate? Like, oh look, like bam,
Mm,
she's oh man, she's a mutant, and then they kind of discover like, oh man, there's mutants among us and all this kind of crazy shit. But anyway, I'm for it. I don't know what they're gonna do, but they haven't failed yet. They've taken the most obscure thing, which was Guardians of the Galaxy, which never was even really a popular comic.
right.
They brought that into the MCU and made it super popular. So I think that they cannot fail in bringing something that is actually popular. They just have to the Fantastic Four does have a little bit of campiness to it. They just have to find a way to make it realistic for this universe. Like we've got everything else in this universe that is wild and crazy. I think we have a talking raccoon, so they can
We
make the
do.
Fantastic Four work, you know?
The raccoon game. It's real
Yeah, and I
life
just want
now.
to see I just want to see Doctor Doom done well. And that's another thing I didn't think about. Like I immediately jumped to Silver Surfer and Galactus, but I could see them they could definitely do Doctor Doom for the first one and do a lot of cool
I
shit there. I
hope
just
they do not do Doctor Doom for the first comeuppance
oh
for Fantastic Four. I hope that
I
he
think
is
that's
not.
you
I
have to.
No, he's got to be better than the first guy to die. Like that's
No, don't kill him.
no. I mean, what happens to all of these big team up movie villains? They always die,
He
except Loki. They always die.
there's a few villains who haven't passed away, but I think you can keep him alive though. He's one that you would keep going because he controls so much. Like he's another Thanos level threat. You know, like he's not as big as Galactus. Galactus is definitely like you need the entire fucking universe, which is probably when
Right.
Nova Corp and all that kind of stuff comes in. But Doctor Doom is definitely a big enough worldwide threat that he can be a like a end of phase type villain. Because
He's
I don't think they have to do as big of scale as they did with Endgame again. Like that was a literally 10-year. I think at this point we'll do like, oh, okay, these 5 movies for this phase end in one big, like one big type of
right.
movie.
A smaller
And then you keep
Avengers type situation.
yeah, and Doctor Doom he sticks around like, oh, at the end, like, yeah, you stopped his plot, but he's gone off now and he's off doing something else.
Yeah, I
So
hope they embrace the whole like I don't know, like chaotic neutral almost. Like he is evil, but I like the more modern take that he has in the comics where he's kind of just like self-serving really. Like he's not out to just like rule everything. He has this very demented Thanos type of mindset of where he thinks he's better than everybody and he thinks his ideas are better than everybody, but he's not really doing harm in his own mindset. He's definitely doing harm in reality, but to him the ends are very much a justify of the means type situation. And I feel like his character depth is too deep for him to be a good first pick. Like he needs to be there. He needs to help the team out, help Fantastic Four out every once in a while. And then, in the background, he needs to be the cutscene bad guy where he's just like, we see him, he's an Oscorp and he's got, the hobgoblin in a test tube chamber. So, weird things like that. Like I want him to be the Lex Luthor of this world. And that's what I think that he's best served in that role. I think that's all we had. We talked entirely too long about a 3 minute 10-second movie clip, Steve.
uh, let's get on to what we played this week, right? Or what's on
Yeah.
our radar? Where are we at?
Radar. Let's go to Radar. So Radar, not a whole lot of like new titles that we're overly excited about. I did find Cryofall here. It is a base building style open world survival craft game. It has a very I don't know how I would describe this art style here for anybody, but it's definitely a survival crafting type thing. There's base building, there's multiplayer. Is it local multiplayer? Online? Nope. Online co-op. I'm interested in why there's an MMO tag here because I don't think you can just jump into someone else's world, or maybe you can. I don't know. That'd be interesting. But I don't know. It looks fun. I have it on my list so that if it ever goes on more of a discount, I'll probably pick it up. But it is currently only $12.99 on sale right now.
Doesn't look bad.
Yeah, it doesn't look bad. I mean, I don't. It's no Stardew Valley for sure, but there's robots, so we got that going for us.
Yeah.
I don't know. That
Um.
should be okay. Keep an eye on it.
Yep.
What's on your radar, Steve?
My game's not that cool. Most people aren't going to care, but I am kind of a sucker for these type of games. So this was actually exclusive to PlayStation for a little bit here. Predator Hunting Grounds. This is one of those asymmetric games where it's usually you have a big bad monster versus like 4 or 5, 6 people. So it's just one of those. I played Friday the 13th was a game similar to this.
Yep, I remember when
Dead
we
by
played that.
Daylight. So right now it's about $30. I did the same thing you list, and I'll wait for a sale. But it just came out on Steam on the 29th. So right now the reviews are mostly positive, but I saw a lot of comments in the reviews where people are like, yeah, they didn't really update a lot of this from the original version. So people are complaining about that. My God, this game sucks. This feels like a mobile game. Like so you see a lot of comments like that, but overwhelmingly the reviews are positive.
Right,
So that tells me the gameplay itself is at least cool, which is all I want. Something I can pop in, here and there. I'm not necessarily going to get stuck in the microtransaction, loop or anything like that.
right.
Yeah. So
Should be fun.
yeah, that's it.
I enjoyed whenever we played Friday the 13th together. That was a very interesting take
I love
on
that game.
on PvP type situations. That was a very
Yeah, I
fun
wish it
take.
had taken off a little bit more. That was a pretty fun game.
I
I actually
think
enjoyed
Dead
it.
by Daylight really took a lot of the steam out of its sales because it was
Yeah,
just
and
like
Dead by Daylight's not
you could
even.
either play like 6 versions of Jason, or you can come over here and play like 18 different monsters.
Yeah, that's the benefit they have. I still feel like the Friday 13th formula was better though because it was more polished and it made I talk about there's so many different ways to get to the same objective. Like there's so many different things you could do, but
Yep.
neither here nor there. So what do we got up next? What we played last week?
What we played last week. Yep. So last week, I played a little bit more of Elite Dangerous. I was trying to find a system that had some good routes in it. Found one where I was able to make like, I think it was like a 42 light year jump out, get goods, and bring it back to this system and sell it for like 2.5 mil. So about 2.5 mil every, I don't know, 15 minutes or so.
It's not
Was
bad.
not bad at all. I tried playing the alpha, but I did talk to you about it the day after I tried it. I had a lot of computer problems for some reason. I had a really weird update that my computer needed that was just titled net. No version number, no nothing. I had to turn on some weird settings in Windows Update for it to even show up in the optional updates. So it was never going to do it on its own.
Huh.
Hit it, and then tried the game again. I didn't even restart after installing it. Just tried the game one more time, and boop, everything went well. I was getting kicked off about every 10 minutes or so. Had the same error in the logs, but then after I played that, or after I installed it and then replayed the game, I was in there for hours on end with no problems. So,
Oh, cool. What'd you
yeah.
think of the on foot stuff?
I have not made it to any on foot stuff. I'm still a little
Okay.
lost. So maybe sometime this week you and I can team up and
Yeah, let's
do
do that.
some thievery. Now that I know that this doesn't tie into my main save, I'm more willing to
Yeah,
be reckless.
yeah, and the actual update's coming out pretty soon anyways, the 19th, with 3 weeks from now. One,
Mm-hmm.
two, yeah, 3 Wednesdays from now. So it'll be out pretty soon. I kind of have been playing this and, just talk about what I played last week. I played this as well. I've been really focusing on my actual main save though, just
Mm-hmm.
to get my engineering stuff up, get my money up. That way when the alpha no longer becomes alpha and just becomes the live kind of art set and ready for it. I played enough of the alpha to kind of get my bearings on what the gameplay mechanics are going to be. There's some muscle memory type stuff that I'll have to reconfigure just because some of the menus have changed, but the key bindings and everything seems to still be the same. And I actually really like the on foot stuff. So
It looks interesting. I definitely want to give it a go, and it it's very I stepped out of the ship for the first time on the alpha, and it was a very weird feeling at first. It was like, this doesn't feel like this game. This feels like I just started up a completely different game to play this.
yeah, Oh,
So
so you did visit a space base and all that at least.
well, yeah, because the alpha moves you into their little bubble that they have, and
Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
I was on. I don't remember. It had some. I think it was like a Japanese sounding name
Yeah,
of the
and that's the
base.
cool thing about the bases too. So you know, like how the starports and the actual game are different based off the economy and everything. There,
Right.
the bases are actually different too. So the layouts will be different. They'll have the stores. You know, sometimes they'll all
Nice.
be on the first floor. Sometimes they're split between the first and the second. I just like that it adds variety. And then like I remember talking to some folks. They're like, "Oh yeah, what's your favorite station?" Because you know they do kind of have unique
Mm-hmm.
personality and shit now. So yeah, it's cool.
Certainly do. So
Good.
then,
The
what
only
are
other
you
thing I
playing?
played beside Elite last week was Star Wars Squadron. So I got back into that a little bit, just because I have my hotels on my desk and I've been itching for something new to play. I've been playing Microsoft Flight Simulator like crazy. You know, obviously we've been working on our development projects there, and
Mm-hmm.
those are kind of wrapping up. So got some free time, and I've been just looking for something. I want a dogfight, so I came back to this. I bought this on launch, which was October of last year, and I think I may have like 20 hours or something in it. But it's really good, man. The problem I have with it, something that I really hate that happens. So EA got so shook up by what happened with Battlefront that they have
Mm-hmm.
not put microtransactions in most of their games other than like the sports titles, but they haven't put them in their mainstream games in a while. So there's been no way to just outright buy the cosmetic options you want, which kind of sucks. Like I know people are like, "Oh, whatever, you should play to get it." But if I something like this is a perfect example. So I have to get to like a level 50 or something to unlock a shader that I want. But I do not have the time to 50. So I'm just stuck playing as this, you know, generic character up
Right.
until that time. Whereas I really honestly prefer, hey, you know, you they just need to balance the both. Like, hey, if you have the time and you want to grind for something, you can. But if you're an old man, you have a real job, you have a kid, and you want to pay $5 to get this one skin, you can
Yeah.
do that. I think that they should. I think every game should have a balance of both. Like, I don't agree with this approach of no microtransactions at
Right.
all. Like, I personally, I don't. Especially for something like this, their DLC that they've released, like the extra chips and stuff, they don't even put a cost on that. So I'm like, you guys, like, I get it. Like, want to get that again, it's not just ignorant backlash, like, we hate all microtransactions, like, there's games that have them that people still care about and don't have those issues, you know, Fortnite's the biggest one, right?
Right.
Like, so there's a way to do it, you just have to balance it, and they didn't balance it, they just took the option out completely, and it sucks.
Yeah,
But the
I
gameplay is
agree.
cool, though. It's a great
It's
game.
definitely something that needs to be like it, and I understand the other side of the argument too of where people feel almost cheated because, you know, not everybody can just drop in and throw $30 on the table to get whatever skin they want and whatnot. But at the same time, I understand that, you know, we don't all have the same amount of time to invest into a game. So normally how you get around that though in other titles is you allow cosmetic stuff to a degree, but then there's other cosmetic stuffs that you can only earn so that the people who invest their time can still go, hey, I have this skin because I earned it. But then we're not alienating the people who don't have the time to play it all the way through because they can still have some good options for themselves as well without feeling that
Exactly.
either of the two are alienated at all.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think what I'm asking for is too crazy.
No, I
That's
don't
all I
think so
want.
either. Seems to make sense
That's
to
it.
me.
But it kinda sucks because they definitely did it in response to, you know, to all the backlash they used to get over having microtransactions, period, you know? But
It was like those
yeah.
terrible loot boxes, man. That's like the worst idea ever. I don't know who invented those, but that needs to not be a thing anymore. Loot
Yeah, I
boxes are
mean,
trash.
trust me, I get it, man. I do. I'm not against it.
I
I
say
do
loot boxes are
understand.
trash, but I guarantee you if we added up all the loot boxes across all the games that I have actually paid money for, it's probably an embarrassing amount. Most likely. So I say it, but I've definitely paid in. Don't get it confused. I've definitely paid into the system that I don't like. But like you
Yeah.
said, I didn't have time all the time, so I wanted those cool skins. But I couldn't just
And
buy the skins. I had to buy 1,800 freaking boxes to get the one that I wanted.
yeah. See, loot boxes I agree with are the devil. I think
Yeah,
if you're gonna do microtransactions, just let people buy exactly what they want. You know, like don't make it a gambling system. Like that's where the problems come in. Let me as an adult or as a child with access to my parents' credit card, let me make the decision for if I want to buy something or not. Don't put me in a gambling system. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Yep, I
Um,
agree. Let's see. This what I've been playing is probably what I'm going to be playing for a while. I know Friday I'm probably going to be picking up It Takes Two. I'm really interested in that. The wife and I are probably going to give that a run. It looks very cutesy, but I'm pretty sure there's a slightly deeper, darker story involved in it. So I'm interested.
ooh,
I'm interested.
spooky.
What about you next week?
I'm just gonna continue. I'm gonna keep bouncing back between Flight Simulator, um, Elite Dangerous, and Star Wars. I'm just gonna keep bouncing between those three. I find myself playing a little bit of them each, not every day, but like an hour of one of those.
Mm-hmm.
1 to 2 hours of each of those a day. Is pretty much how I've been doing. And then, I mean, the only thing on my horizon after that will be Days Gone. Comes out on the 18th, but that's a week or so away from now. But
Are you going to pick up the new Resident Evil?
I am not. That one I'm gonna wait for a sale. Um, because they're $60. So I can justify Days Gone because or the developer, they've kind of complained
Right.
that their sales weren't very strong. So for $40, I got a deal off of Green Man Gaming that was $10 off of the normal price. I was like, hey, I'll pay that. Like I'm sure to drop down to like 25 at some point, but I've wanted to play that for a long time. So I don't mind paying full price at launch, show my support for those guys. But Resident Evil, I enjoyed the last Resident Evil, but I ended up enjoying the even more, like the remake of 2 and 3. I actually enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
those more than 7. Like, I like the gameplay style, I like kind of the suspense of it, kind of that first person thing, but I think what happened with this is this kinda hit, like, Napoleon Dynamite status for me, like, so many people are talking about it, and it's so hyped
Oh
up, and you
yeah.
can't escape it that I'm like, I'll come and experience this after you guys are all done, that way I can just enjoy it for myself without having all these preconceived notions about it?
Yep.
So
Everyone's head over heels over the big vampire lady. It's
yeah,
crazy.
it's kind of obnoxious, like,
It
it
is.
hasn't had the same effect for me that, like, I know that the, like, Capcom thinks it's having, like, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
man, yes, we're getting so much hype. This is great." Like, you were already gonna sell. Like,
Yeah.
now the conversation is just, like, I don't know shit about the gameplay, like, the demo's available for free, and I am so, like, turned off by all the other press around them, like, I don't even wanna download the
Did you
demo, like,
see
I was
their
hoping.
latest trailer for it? It's like in puppet form.
Oh,
It's
really?
so
Yeah, no,
weird. Like I was
oh,
like,
wait,
that's
yeah, you
what a
guys put
weird
it in
take.
the chat.
I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah, it was such a weird take on it.
Yeah, so
But I know the
I'm
demo's
good.
still out, and I know that they've already hacked away a way to get around the time requirement on PC. So I'll probably download the demo, give it a go, see if it's something that I want to. I would really like to get 7 on VR on PC, but I know there's no official VR setup for PC, so I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
All right. So that was the news. That's what we're looking at. That's what we've been playing. So now it's time to get into the last piece of the day. Video game 20 question. This week, it is my week to challenge you, Steve. Are you
I'm
ready?
ready.
All
I'm
right.
ready. Let's go.
People in the audience, in the comments, YouTube, Twitch, doesn't matter where you're at, play along. Make a comment. If you're here with us live, help Steve out. We desperately need it because both of our records are terrible. uh, let's see here. All right, so here's my little blurb about the game. It's a little bit shorter than normal, but it's because there's a lot of clues that I feel would give it away easily. So, this first-person rail shooter style game began its development cycle on a defunct 90s hardware. Later moved to a much more beloved console, this game was a drastic departure from its core series titles. Released to some rather mixed reviews, today it is considered a cult classic and a defining title into the world this IP's supporting characters live in.
Okay. I'm gonna start off with. So you said that this was intended for a piece of 90s hardware. Was that the Jaguar?
It was not.
Was it the Virtual Boy?
It was not.
Was it the? I should probably ask about this. Wait. You said defunct? Was it
Yeah.
actually ever released, or was it a thing that was intended and then got canceled?
So it's hard to answer that question because in some parts of the world, it did see an extremely limited release. I don't
Was
believe
this
in the
the
US it
was
ever
this
did.
related to a Nintendo product?
Yes,
I should have just asked. Was it that Nintendo 64 disk drive
it
thing?
was. That
Okay,
was the
great.
original development, but then it moved away from it.
Okay, and then it ended up being on the GameCube. Is that correct?
No.
No.
Yep, correct.
Did it go to the PlayStation?
It did not.
Did it go to a Nintendo hardware?
It did.
Okay. So Nintendo 64 is what we're talking?
It is. Yep.
Okay. And it was a rail shooter.
It was a rail
This is
shooter style game.
got you.
Emphasis
Oh,
on style.
is this Pokemon Snap?
It is. See, as soon as you said earlier today, no Nintendo news, I was like, oh, he's gonna he's gonna love the
Yes.
game I picked.
It took me a while, but then I remembered. I did remember that Nintendo or that Pokemon Snap was a on rails game. I was like, oh, okay, that gives it away.
Yeah. So as soon as you
Thank you.
said
Good
it,
hint.
I wanted to make sure that you didn't think that it was an actual shooter, though. I guess technically is you're chucking apples at poor little defenseless Pokemon,
Oh my
but
god, that was a good one.
that you're chucking apples and what were they, like concussion balls or something like that? Those weird little gas power.
It's been so long since I played that. I honestly don't have it.
Really?
Yeah,
I love that game.
I remember certain scenes. Like I remember the scene for some reason.
Mhm.
I think was there Surfing Pikachu at some point in that one?
Yeah, like
Or
almost the very beginning. Well, kind of at the very beginning. You had to get the apple first, and then you come
okay.
back to the first stage.
Yeah, so there was some stuff that was a great game.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you guys.
Yep. Congrats in the chat. It was a good game. Picked it because, of course, the new Pokemon Snap did come out just a couple days ago, and it's gotten great reviews. For how long people are saying it takes to beat it, I think I'm gonna hold off on it for a little bit. But they feel like it's a great value. That's how reviewers are looking at it, and I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that it's a Nintendo / Pokemon property.
Yeah.
But the original one for the N64 wasn't exactly a long title either. I think the last time me and my buddies played it a couple of years ago, we burned through the entire game and filled out the Pokedex or visual Pokedex, whatever that one was, in like one night, one evening, one sitting. So, but it's still a fun game. There's like a weird day-night cycle on this new one, so I think that increases the whole playability.
Yeah, I'll watch some videos. It might be something good to get my kid, let her play around with.
That that would be
I
a
have
good
zero
one.
interest. Yes, Pokemon Stadium is actually probably my favorite Pokemon game ever. Honestly, like I like what they did with the last Pokemon on the Switch because they did the gym battle thing so well. I would love for them to make like an RPG that is really like just focused. I don't like all the travel in between the gyms and all that. Like I really just want some type of tournament style thing where it's just straight
Right.
up Pokemon Stadium, start to finish. You're going through the gym battles. Like they have that same level of presentation. Like fucking EA games, like you've got the commentators and you've got like hysteria going on in the crowd. Like
Yeah, I think
Pokemon
they could
Stadium
go
was great,
real
man.
well.
That was such a good game.
Yeah.
Such a good game.
I feel like they could easily get away with a new Pokemon Stadium, especially if they integrated in their Pokemon Home now. That new service that lets you store all your Pokemon in there so that you don't have to
Oh yeah.
you don't have to like pull in saves or anything. Just link your Pokemon Home and there you go. You're done. You're good to go.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a pretty awesome hit, especially if they brought back like all the mini games and everything. I think that'd be a clutch money maker for them if they ever needed it.
I concur.
Yep. All right. Well, that was the show, episode 14. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, do all the good things. Call to action, do it, make it happen. We can't do it for you, or else we would. We just hack all your computers and make it happen instantly. If you liked it, go ahead and do all those things. See if you got anything else to plug at the end.
Nothing now. In a
Nothing.
couple weeks, I will though.
Wink, wink. I think I know what it is. All right, bye everybody. Love y'all.